Mediocrity,
I love my job.
You hate your job.
anxiety,
Very satisfied where I am.
and skills.
I am inevitable.
I feel this is a vicious circle most engineers of our country are stuck in. There's this constant anxiety amongst young engineers about what their future might be a few years from now. Anywhere you go, you hear the same thing. This isn't a good time to get into the job market. The job market is saturated. Development overall is saturated. Development might die. AI can do in a few minutes what you used to do in a few hours. The goal of this video is to understand what needs to change at a fundamental level for India to produce solid products at a global stage and solid engineers who can be great employees. Let's uncover the truth layer by layer. Let's understand where this all started from. Let's start from the top. CS wasn't the most lucrative field back in the day, but the core fascination was towards building a company that blitz scaled so quickly, building something that connected the world and brought them together so quick. The core motivation was solving a problem. It wasn't getting a stable paycheck every month. Well, that was true until we joined college. I have a cousin back in Canada, and you'll notice a stark difference in his attitude and mine towards life. Indians live with a very risk-averse mindset. This country is overly satisfied with 1 lakh a month jobs, and it's been ingrained into most of middle class that if you've reached a certain level, it's time to stay in that company forever, pay your debts, get married, have kids, and then your kids continue down the same route. Rarely are people from the middle class strata seen to take risks, but usually the smartest lot lives here. The smartest lot has had a fairly average childhood. They've always wanted to break out of mediocrity. They've always had problems at home, financially or otherwise, and their core goal has been to break out of that mediocrity. The problem is they run back towards mediocrity with a certain CTC in mind. The problem with the country is not that we don't have ambition, is that we have limited ambition. Most of the country, in fact, I would dare to say most of the IITians, are overly satisfied with a certain paycheck as long as it comes with a lot of security. The same is not true for my cousins living in Canada. They have been pushed out to the world at as early as 16, and since then they've been taking care of themselves. This is in stark difference from what happens in India. Your family is supposed to take care of you until you're 22, and you're supposed to take care of them after you're 22. There's nothing wrong with it. The problem is Indians are overly emotionally abused, especially when it comes to career choices. It's hard for a generation above us to understand the kind of jobs that exist today. They've been raised in a different world. Opportunities today are significantly different than what they used to be, and it's hard for them to digest outcomes like 1 lakh a month or 2 lakh a month, considering they've broken their back for 40 years working at a government job and by the end of it reached a similar number. Once their kid starts at this point, number one, it's hard for them to believe. And number two, they really want their kid to stick with it. It's really hard for the kid to ever run out of that salary cycle. And this leads to the first reason of mediocrity. Extremely risk-averse mindset. They say the rich keep on getting richer. And I think that's true. One of the biggest reasons being the rich have more appetite for risk. The poor don't. The good thing in tech is that even if you're middle class, if you're smart, there are people out there who'll fund your ideas. You get to work on building something, taking risks while drawing a salary. That's never been true for any other career. With such freedom to build products and experiment, the country still is the biggest job center for everyone all around the world. People still want that job and are happy staying in that job until they're 50 and retiring. There's nothing wrong in it. It's how things have been going on forever. I think the thing that is wrong is to expect us to compete with countries like the US, when we don't have the risk appetite, or more technically, smart people don't have the risk appetite to build businesses. And it's not just building businesses. I think even as an employee, you can provide a lot of value. What people lack is the courage to go against your parents' will and take a 50% pay cut because your friend is starting up. The final outcome, the money that you retire with, is going to be a lot. Even if it's half of the amount, your outcome won't change. You will still have the same lifestyle. What may end up happening though, is that if a lot of the country starts to adopt a business mindset compared to an employee mindset, the country as a whole might have a chance to compete with global economies like the US. This takes me to my next point: abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset. Let's start with a tweet. In this tweet, you'll see someone complaining that Zomato is charging slightly higher as compared to a traditional restaurant, and hence you should just visit the restaurant, order directly from the restaurant, or just eat out. Do you find a problem in here or not? If I do a poll, I think a lot of people would agree that what Zomato is doing is wrong. But how else do you think a company as big would ever make money or ever be profitable if they're not keeping a cut for themselves? But Akirat, the cut is too high. Well, they get to decide that. If they've created a monopoly, if everyone's ordering from them, they can jack their prices to whatever they want. If it's too much, someone else will come, outcompete them and beat them down in the market. It's an open market. 90% of India is filled with speculators, naysayers, people who are not super happy looking at other people succeed. Even if a company like Zomato provides employment to thousands of people, takes a lot of money from the rich, provides jobs to thousands of gig workers, if they themselves pull out a profit, they're seen in a bad light. Every other day, you'll find a tweet trying to pull down the legitimacy of these platforms. Why? Because Zomato is one of the first tech success stories from the country. It's one of the first startups from India, started back in 2008, and have successfully built a profitable business that's public and doing extremely well. More companies will follow. I'm not saying every startup is on this path, but a lot of them are. And to see such value being created by strong entrepreneurs who had the option of getting a job in Microsoft back in 2008, but they took a risk, stayed back in the country, built a business over a span of 15 years. To see them become a success, most of the country isn't happy. There's this saying in 3 Idiots, दोस्त अगर फेल कर जाए तो बुरा लगता है, पर दोस्त अगर फर्स्ट आ जाए तो ज़्यादा बुरा लगता है. Every success story, every time someone's seen making some profits, they're essentially seen in a bad light. People aren't happy seeing other people succeed. That's one of the biggest reasons the country is stuck in mediocrity. हमारे साथ का कोई बहुत बड़ा ना हो जाए, हम सब mediocre खुश हैं. You need to understand this is a growing pie. Economies grow over time. If someone is growing, the least you can do is not pull them down. The best you can do is either join them, compete with them, or just support them from the sidelines. This is what is known as abundance mindset. Abundance mindset is the belief that there are enough resources, time, and opportunities for everyone to be successful, and the success does not come from the expense of others. India doesn't have an abundance mindset yet. It has what's called a scarcity mindset. The reason is obvious. We've always been a risk-averse country. We've never promoted taking risks. We've always looked down upon failure. But the best entrepreneurs, the best businesses, the best people are built out of a lot of failures. Remember, we're a strong country. We're as strong as iron, and no one can destroy iron, but its own rust can. I think we're rusted, but we're not rusted beyond repair. Let's talk about how can we fix this. One of the biggest reasons of scarcity mindset, one of the biggest reasons we don't like to see other people succeed, is because deep inside we know we won't. We know we waste a lot of our time on social media. We know we're not putting in the efforts in the right direction. We just hope other people aren't as well. And frankly, today the bar is that low. Majority of the people are stuck in an extremely comforted lifestyle, a lifestyle where everything is available at the touch of your fingertips. A lifestyle that we were not meant to live, but unfortunately, most of the country is. TikTok, India was one of the biggest consumers of TikTok back in the day. Remember, no such product has come out of India yet, and it did not come out of the US. It came out of China. And India was one of the biggest consumers of it. People hate China for 1,000 reasons. They're very restrictive. They don't allow YouTube access from the country. They have their own apps for everything. They don't allow foreign trade to kick in. These are rules. No one likes rules. But have they worked well for them? I would say yes. Have you ever been to China? It feels like they're living 20 years ahead of everyone else, even ahead of the US. Sure, there should be freedom of speech. No human should be forced to do anything against their own will. I think we strictly need rules. Very early in our lives, we're being exposed to social media, to a world of people, to things we probably shouldn't be exposed to. And rules aren't the worst thing in the world. 3 to 6 months of social media detox, 3 to 6 months of working hard rather than cribbing on the internet might lead to outcomes no one might have ever seen. The bar is so low. All you have to do is for 3 months just keep your phone on the side, and most probably you will be at a 10x better position than where you were. Unfortunately, it's really hard. It's probably really hard for you to sit through this video without forwarding it. Our mind has been trained in a way. It's very hard for us to focus on what's right because there's too much entertainment on the other side. Will this entertainment give you short-term pleasure? Yes. Will it make you a miserable human being cribbing on the internet about other people's success in the long term? Yes. So what's step 1 for the country to adopt abundance mindset? It's for the country to have some rules. I think, as controversial as the statement might sound, Banning TikTok was a good idea, and I think there are a few more apps that might not be the worst idea in the world to ban. Sometimes these things need to be forced. There's a reason that the average screen time you might have on Instagram is probably 6 hours, but you're not able to sit through that 3-hour Udemy course that's providing thousands of years of knowledge in a span of 3 hours. You'd rather scroll on Reels because you need something new every 3 seconds. What we're aiming for is the country to be successful. For that, we need an abundance mindset. The first step there is just reversing our attention spans, is just making sure we can focus on things that we know are right and not avoid the right things and find any excuse out there to work hard. With that, I'll move to the next point. Step 1, thankfully, is the easiest step. It's just staying still for a day. Try to sleep well. Try to have a deep sleep of 8 hours. Try to stay away from your phone almost throughout the day. Try to spend time with your family. Try to avoid that urge to eat junk food. Just try and stay still. That's step 1. Step 1 is super easy. India is filled with mediocrity right now, but it won't remain there for long. When people start to come out of mediocrity, competition will increase at a higher level as well. Trust me, I can be super persuasive. Turn the camera around and look at the people working hard at 5 a.m. There's a woman sitting in the office until 5 a.m. preparing. I like solving challenging problems. That's what I've been doing all my life. And I haven't found a problem as challenging as this. Keeping people motivated enough to make sure they're just putting in the input without worrying about the output. Making sure that there are infinite sum games running all around me. I will be persuasive on the channel and in person with a lot of people. And when that happens, the above average lot will become extremely crowded. Right now though, the bar is extremely low. If you can break the dopamine routine for a week, the next steps will become fairly obvious to you very quickly. You'll declutter your feed. You'll make sure you're following the right people. You'll make sure you're understanding where the value is coming from. It was very obvious where the value was in the last 10 years. It was in tech, it was in products, it was in startups. A lot of startups that are being used by 99% of India now that's scrolling on their phone. There's still a lot of need for competition in these markets. More competition leads to a healthy economy. So try to be on the other side of the phone, build products rather than using them. Harkirat, I'm already an engineer. I'm assuming most people on this channel are already engineers somewhere involved in coding or computer science. Computer science is probably the only degree where you can make $500,000 to $1 million as an employee. This is sort of unheard of unless you're involved in very core sales. Rarely do you make this amount of money as an employee. Even there, in sales, you have to show outcomes. In tech, a lot of times you're rewarded just for being smart. If you've written a research paper, if you've published a library, there's a high probability a big tech will hire you just for the sake of it. And you can stay their mentor, coast for a few years for packages that even small to medium-sized businesses sometimes don't make. It's a very healthy business with, believe it or not when I say this, extremely low competition. No one's close to being at the top. As I said, people love mediocrity. Most are looking for what they can do the next month to get a 30% bump. But no one's looking at a 10-year horizon. How can you be a better engineer so that by the end of 10 years, you're an extraordinary resource to a very big company or you are a very big company. After 1 lakh a month, if you're still stuck in the job rut, then most probably it's not your parents forcing you, it's yourself. I agree that risk averseness gets pushed onto us by our parents. We don't take a lot of risk in life because we want to make our parents proud, get them a house, so on and so forth. But beyond a point, if you're making 2 to 3 lakh rupees a month as an engineer, if you're still not ready to take risks, most probably the problem lies in you. You've absorbed the risk averseness inside you so much. It's very hard for you to break out of it now. And it only gets worse over time. People keep saying IITians should be job givers and job takers. But if you look at the distribution of IITians, you'll find 90 to 95% of them still working at jobs and maybe 5% doing startups. They're probably, at least on paper, the most qualified people to start startups, even though this statement is slightly controversial. They're supposed to, at least on paper, perform really well in anything that they do, including business. But they're always stuck in this conundrum, and I see this very closely amongst my friends. It's hard for me to lose the salary check. And also there's a 30% increment waiting in the next company or at the end of the year. There's nothing wrong in it. It's a great lifestyle. But I think one should accept at that point that you're yourself the one who's risk averse. For everyone else, people who are supposed to be job takers, you'll find one very common quality amongst most IITians. They despise if someone from a different college joins the same company at the same package. And they love it when there's a very big disparity based on college in the compensation packages. Their identity is tied to being an IITian. They always want to be the elite class, and this entitlement stays with them for a long time. It's like defense employees. My dad, even after he retired, expects people to salute because he was once a group captain. Even though there's nothing wrong in it, I think it's a false sense of entitlement, and people around you, without you even knowing, might surpass you when it comes to skills, salaries, and every other aspect of being a wholesome human being, while you're stuck in that entitlement of you clearing a paper 10 years ago. If you are one of my friends who's been an IITian, here's a wake-up call for you. I know you've been wanting to start up, and I know you've made enough money to maybe not retire, but be safe for the next few years. So if you have the opportunity at hand, if you have the skills, and if you have the willpower, it'll only get harder from here. This might be the right time to start up. To everyone else, that's 99.9% of the audience, it's very easy for you to reach the same level as any of your IITian counterparts. And from there, the trauma should go away. Trust me, it does go away in 5 to 10 years. The entitlement might not go away for an IITian, but the trauma goes away for a non-IITian. Let that trauma go early and try to think of what your next steps are. Try to assume you're already an IITian. Try to assume you're already at that level and plan your future based on that. Don't let a degree or a college be an excuse for mediocrity. It might make sense as an excuse very early in your career for the first year or two. After that, if you're still holding on to that trauma, it's as bad as that IITian holding on to that entitlement for over a span of 10 years. Step 1 is just gaining clarity that no one is too far ahead of you, and it will take you less than 1 year to surpass anyone's level in tech, because almost everyone, the smartest people you know, are all stuck in a social media frenzy. The people who come out of it are probably going to be the ones that win, and you wouldn't even see them. They'd sprint past you so quick because, well, everyone else is still stuck on their phone. Step 2, and this one's the most actionable, is avoid doing extremely simple things. I've been trying to lose weight for a while, and my toxic trait is if I put in enough hours in the day, that'll lead to an outcome. So I walk a lot. You'll see me doing the most basic exercises, the most basic stretches, and very basic walks throughout the day in hope of losing weight over a long span of time. While that might work, it's not the best approach for me to break out of obesity. And similarly for you, I know it's much easier to copy lead code questions and do them. I doubt any of this is going to be relevant at all in the next few years. People are looking for solid value when they're hiring someone. They really need someone who takes away the pain points of the founder, the founding team, the engineering manager. You're just saving their time and charging slightly less than what their time is worth. That's what employment is in tech. If that's not the case right now, it will eventually converge there. Right now, it's highly unoptimal. A lot of engineers are chilling, but productivity tools, general dev tracking is coming. And when it does, only people who are providing real value are probably going to do well in this career. This is one of the reasons that most people top out at L3, L4, L5 at Google, and very few move beyond that because very few are ready to do complex things. So if you want to succeed in tech, if you've already decided this is what you want to do, irrespective of where you're at, you might not have a job right now, you might be in college, you might be in school, pick challenging tasks. Every company that you look at today, every successful company is either a deep tech product that's very hard to build or a company that's figured out on-ground business really well. Zomato lies in the second category, and a company like OpenAI or Anthropic lie in the first category. All of these products at its core have been built by humans, and thankfully 99% of these products can be cloned by anyone as dumb as a monkey. It's all first principles thinking, and I'm not saying you'll build OpenAI on day zero, but you can build a smaller version of an LLM. You'll learn much more building that than trying to build a to-do application. I know it feels hard, but it only feels hard because most people don't have 8 hours to give at a stretch. Here is an amazing video that will take you through how to build an LLM from scratch. Amongst the millions of people who've seen this video, I doubt more than 5% have actually built it or gained any value from it, pursued it later on to build something better. But the only way to increase your learning curve is by solving more and more challenging problems. That's what PhDs do. And they're usually considered extremely smart and known to retire fairly rich. So if you are thinking of getting into tech, don't. But if you do, make sure you like to keep your head down, spend a lot of hours coding, understanding computer science, how computers work. That's really all that most mediocre developers lack. If you're just keeping your head down and solving complex problems, stepping out of your comfort zone almost every other day, before you know it, you have a following of 500,000 people thinking you know something, but I don't know anything. I just like solving complex problems. And if you keep doing that over a long span of time, there are only X number of things that you need to know to become a good computer scientist, to be able to communicate with other people, to make sure you're not feeling alienated in a conversation among smart people. Make sure you're ready for it. And if you are, it's a very nice, cozy, small community of developers that eventually end up doing this for a living. The good ones. Aim to be there. Keep a longer term horizon in mind and make sure you're staying away from any distraction until you get there. With that, we'll end it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.